Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Monday to each and every one of you. I haven't even had time to shower yet. I literally wanted to, and then I realized, wait, there's just way too much to cover. We live in a country with an incredible divide. Now, I think the divide is oftentimes made to look a lot bigger than what it actually is. I genuinely believe that if you were to take 1,000 South Africans, white and black mixed equally, and you really ask them how do they feel about the other side, you would probably find that most people in this country do not mind their brothers and sisters, on different races or and so on. I think the problem really lies with a small handful of specifically black people who have grown up in a country where they are allowed to say whatever they want. Doesn't matter how racist they want to be, doesn't matter, how incitement or how much violence they wish to incite against white people, they will get away with it. They know that nothing will ever happen to them. Take, for example, Nota Baloyi.
The problem that South Africans have right now is that we don't understand white people. White people are inferior species to us. We are Homo sapiens. They've got Neanderthal blood in them. This is the science. And this is not science that was done by black people. It was done by them.
We'll just ignore the obvious misconceptions there and the obvious issues, right? We're not human. We're subhuman. They're the true Homo sapiens. We're a bastardized version of Homo sapien, whatever the case might be. Of course, literally, as I said, the Human Rights Commission looked into him and they found that, well, you should apologize. You should really not do this. Then, of course, if you're a white woman in South Africa and you call black people monkeys, not only do you have your entire life destroyed, you have the Human Rights Commission look into you. They find you guilty, fine you 5,000 rand, then you had to pay. She was actually sued a second time in civil court where she was ordered to pay another 150,000 rand. Now, my personal opinion on this is that Penny Sparrow should not have said what she said. It's not helpful. It doesn't help anyone when you call a certain group of people monkeys, in the same way that Nota Baloyi should have had the exact same treatment. But that really is the problem that we have in South Africa. We have one group of society thinking that they can get away with anything and being willing to say literally whatever they want because nothing ever happens to them. And another group of society that is consistently walking around on eggshells, which of course creates massive amounts of tension and frustration. Our video today, though, goes far beyond this. This is not some guy calling white people Neanderthals as if that is somehow an insult. This isn't some lady calling black people monkeys. This is a guy openly, firmly, and without reservation calling for the death and the murder of white people.
Ready for war. Me, I'm ready for war. Let's go with them to war. We can't shrink ourselves with 7% population of white people. We are 93%. They are 7%. These white creatures. And they're here to demand a king like me, telling me what the fuck to do.
All right, so just very quickly, sir, you need to understand something. If you were indeed a king, as you say, you wouldn't be going on like this. There's no need to. You can remain calm. You don't have to lose your temper. Usually kids lose their temper when they don't get their way because they don't have the intellectual faculty to make their case. They only have what would be considered their very primal instinct to throw their toys out of their cot, and hopefully that leads to something. You're not going to get very far in this. This video goes on and on. I'm not going to show you all 6 minutes, but literally for 6 minutes, this guy sits here and screams at the top of his lungs about how he will be first in line. White people need to be killed. He can't stand these white people any longer. This is the end. For him, this is the end. We can no longer tolerate the white menace in South Africa, or white creature, as he puts it. But okay, so let's just quickly talk this through. You imagine, sir, that you're going to be joined by the 93% of the population of black people that want to. First of all, you won't have 93% because there's a bunch of colored people and Indian people, and then you. I believe black people make up something like 70, almost 80% of the country's population. So you have about 80%. I would furthermore say that you most likely don't have the full support of the 80%. Not only because a lot of them are women and children. Africans tend to be the youngest race in South Africa insofar as you have more children than you have older people, which is great. Obviously, you want to have more children than what you have old people, but those children can't really fight unless you want to make them child soldiers. But I would say that's probably not a good idea, especially if you want to really embrace this race war and hopefully try to win it. You're not going to be fighting with 80% of your people. You're most likely going to have a full fighting force of, let's say, around 30% of that. And then you have to hope that 30% of all black people in South Africa want to kill white people. And I would argue that if we look at the numbers of the EFF, we look at them getting less than 10% every single year and every single election. And let's be very honest, if you're a racist black person in South Africa, you're going to vote EFF. It's the party that is openly calling for the genocide of white people. You're going to want to vote there, right? Because that's really where the magic happens. The ANC, yeah, they have some racist tendencies, but they're not nearly violent or extreme enough to really start that race war, whereas Julius Malema will bring about the war that you so desire. So when we look at that and we see that the EFF, no matter how extreme their rhetoric has become, they've basically been stuck at around 10 to 12% of the population. That means that of the 30 potential fighters, the 30% of potential fighters within the black community that you have, you're only going to have about 10% of that that's willing to join you. The others, they're going to join the white people against you, because the battle that you're after, the battle that you think in your own head is going to happen, isn't going to be a battle between white and black. It's going to be a battle between good and evil. And you are evil, sir. You're on the side of evil. You also seem to imagine that this will be a sort of walkover. Like you'll literally just take on the 7% and you'll win. I'm just very quickly going to remind you, the British had such trouble putting away the Boers that they amassed the largest fighting force in the history of their empire to try and take out the Boer, and they still almost lost. I'm not saying that we're some special fighter, but we do seem to be way too hard-headed to lose or to die. We'll just continue fighting until there's nothing left. But okay, so he goes on to call for a united Africa. He wants every single African country united against the white people. But, this is his rant, and he's welcome to that rant, by the way. I am a free speech absolutist. I want to know who the racists in my society is, and now I know. It's this guy, uneducated as he is. He calls himself a king. I don't think there's any merit to that. I have checked. I don't find any credentials that he is a king. I think he's allowed to be as racist as he wants. Now, yes, I do include calls and incitement to violence in my free speech absolutism, because I think I want to know who's calling for the violence so I know who to prosecute when the violence finally occurs. This caused outrage amongst people because, again, we're dealing with this level of frustration here in South Africa where this man is allowed to say whatever he wants, and yet we can't say anything. If you reversed the roles here, this white person would already be in prison, right? They would already be investigated by the Human Rights Commission, which, of course, he is not. Now, Herman Mashaba, the true fighter of racism, because he is literally tweeting about racism and anti-racism every single day. Like every single day, I see a tweet from the race baiter Herman Mashaba writing about how racism is unacceptable and disgusting and we should completely eradicate it. It also happens to be that he never says that about black people being racist. But Andrew Bonds, a reporter, issued an apology to the ANC's national spokesperson. And, of course, Herman Mashaba goes, as part of this national dialogue, racism must be top of the agenda. This apology should not only go out to the ANC and South African women, but to the black people at large. You would think that he said something incredibly racist, except he said nothing racist. I'm going to try and bump up the audio for you on this one because it's very, very quiet. But he said nothing racist. Just listen to what he said.
For the work that is got to be done by government. All right, thank you so much. Mahlengi Ngumutsiri is the national spokesperson for the African National Congress. Andrew Banks.
Yes, Maloko, thank you very much indeed. I hope the ANC spokeswoman is no longer hungry. She helped herself no less than twice to the crude sandwiches. Anyway,
that's what he said. Now, I will tell you, as a fat person, there is no such thing as body shaming. That does not exist. Being fat is incredibly unhealthy. No fat person should be allowed to feel comfortable being fat. You should feel ostracized. You should feel weird because you are weird. You're killing yourself slowly. It's one of the reasons I'm taking steps. I'm on a diet. I'm going to the gym because I don't want to be fat, right? If I wanted to remain fat, that would be a very bad life decision. Right, so he makes a remark about her being fat. You'd note this is all that happened. This is literally the clip that sent everyone overboard. There's not a single racist mention anywhere in this clip. No racism whatsoever. And it also happens to be true. She ate the crew's sandwiches. They had their own food. She went to the crew, the people who worked at the National Convention, at the National Dialogue, and decided to eat their food instead twice. So he is obviously expressing frustration that a minister, or at least a connected individual, would help themselves to the food of people who are meant to be fed because they're working at this thing. But Herman Mashaba cannot miss a beat. He needs to immediately make this about race because he's a race-baiting little buffoon. That's all he does. He runs around like a little Kremlin. I don't want to use bad words and I don't want to swear, but he makes me a little upset, you know. But he's a little gnat that just constantly runs around trying to see if there is anywhere where he can suck a little bit of blood out of the political system. Because of course, Herman Mashaba oversaw the largest crash out of a political party probably since COPE, right? He came in and everyone thought, oh, Action SA is the next big thing. They lost badly in the 2024 elections. And since then, Herman Mashaba has realized if I want to be elected or at least get a big enough vote share in this country, I have to become a race-baiting buffoon. I have to become Julius Malema light. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section down below how you guys feel about all of this and the stuff that's happening. A massive shout out and big thank you to all of the patrons and the YouTube channel members that continue to support this channel. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Then, very quickly, if you want to see more of my content and you think more people should see more of my content, please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment because it does genuinely help. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. A peace.